All right, folks, we just learned a lot more about Tyler Robinson, the man accused of shooting Charlie Kirk. And all this new information coming out right now includes references to his political ideology, a possible motive. We have leaked text messages and evidence against Tyler Robinson that prosecutors have. There's so much to get through in this video. And look, let me just start off by saying we've seen a lot of political discourse online in the past week or so as to what this guy's beliefs were. Was he left wing? Was he right wing? And I've come away from reading these documents believing that he wasn't really either. He was just kind of a psychopath who did something tragic. I'll explain all of that in just a moment, but before I do so, make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. It goes an incredibly long way. I really appreciate it. Drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what your thoughts are on this whole Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk story. But without further ado, let's dive in. First and foremost, I want to show you a picture of Tyler Robinson who appeared virtually in court today. This is him. He appears to be wearing an anti-suicide vest. This is probably because he told his father he was considering taking his own life before he was turned over to federal authorities. So that appears to be what he's wearing. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure, but this is him in prison today. He had his court hearing. It's kind of more procedural things because the charges were filed today in Utah, and we have them here. We have the entire charging document. I read the whole thing, so you don't have to. And here's some important pieces of details I noticed. You can see it says the state of Utah versus Tyler James Robinson. And this is one of the first things I want to start with. As you can see right up here, it says victim targeting enhancement. Now, this is not a new charge or a charge in and of itself. It's kind of like this add-on to a charge that already exists. It's this statutory add-on that looks to increase the possible penalty for Tyler Robinson. And they accuse Tyler Robinson of going after Charlie Kirk for his political expression. They're saying that this was a very political shooting, and that's why this enhancement was included on it. Now, of course, they have to prove that. So I'm curious as to what evidence the prosecutors have for this, because so far, the stuff in this charging document, I'm just not sold. And I'm saying that objectively. I'm not saying that as a Democrat. I'm just looking at the evidence that's in this document, and it doesn't seem overwhelming to me. And I'm going to explain that in just a second. But I thought the victim targeting enhancement was pretty interesting to me. And you can see all these different charges. Of course, you have obstruction of justice, you have murder, among other things, tampering with a witness, violent offense committed in the presence of a child, and more. But I want to get to, and there's a lot of information. There's the shooting, the UVU surveillance investigation, but I want to get down to this part where they include the official statements on the bullets, and these are all things we've seen by now. But according to the Washington County investigation, Robinson's mother stated the following to police. And this is where it gets interesting regarding political belief. On September 11th, 2025, the day after the shooting, Robinson's mother saw the photo of the shooter in the news and thought the shooter looked like her son. And her husband, Robinson's father, agreed. Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who is transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with family members, but especially between Robinson and his father, who have very different political views. In a conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be holding an event at UVU, which Robinson said was a stupid venue for an event. And it just gets a little bit stranger, especially when you look at the roommate conversations. These are the leaked text messages. So according to his family, in an official charging document, they're accusing him of being left-wing. They say that he's moved left over the past couple of years. He's become pro-trans, pro-gay, and focusing on these social issues. That's the official statement of the family. That's the groundwork here. Now let's get into some of these leaked text messages that were included in the charging document. So let's just focus on the roommate because the text messages were between the roommate and Tyler Robinson. This is the same roommate who MAGA freaked out about and said was baselessly a part of the shooting. But of course, we know that to be completely fabricated. There haven't even been any charges, not even an investigation into the roommate. On September 10th, the roommate received a text message from Robinson, which said, quote, "Drop what you're doing, look under my keyboard." The roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note that stated, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." So that's just one of the many different confessions he made in this saga. Here is the following text exchange. Robinson: I am still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I'd hoped to keep the secret till I died of old age. I'm sorry to involve you. The roommate said, you weren't the one who did it, right? He said, I'm sorry. The roommate said, I thought they caught the person. Robinson said, no, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. Why? The roommate said. Why did I do that? Yeah, I had enough of this hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. So Tyler Robinson is just saying it's because of hatred. It's not because he's MAGA or right wing. He's just saying hatred, which I think can mean genuinely a lot of things. And I want to again say that it's entirely possible that Tyler Robinson is left wing, right? I'm not ruling that out. And I know I can already hear, if you listen very closely, you can hear MAGA furiously typing in the comments saying, no, he's left wing, he's left wing, he's left wing. I'm not ruling that out. But it just, to me, from all of these text messages and what we've seen so far, it just seems like a crazy person who did something crazy. And I think the question of his political beliefs is relevant, but I think the bigger and more important question is, did his political beliefs cause him to do this? Is this the motive for Tyler Robinson's actions? But anyway, let's continue. Roommate asked, how long have you been planning it? Robinson said, a bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there's a squad car. He was really focused on getting the rifle back, which I feel like, is the least of his worries here. I mean, he confessed to the crime in writing, but I guess he's not, obviously acting in a very logical manner. And they just keep going back and forth about the rifle. But here at the bottom is perhaps one of the biggest, most important quotes regarding motive. We've had this conversation, as we've talked about in this video, about the engravings on the bullets. And Republicans were saying, well, this means he's a crazy lunatic, leftist, whatever. But Robinson addressed the engravings on the bullets, saying, remember how I was engraving the bullets? The messages are mostly a big meme. If I see one of the messages on Fox News, I might have a stroke. So to Tyler Robinson, the messages on the bullets were not inherently political. They weren't a political message aimed at Charlie Kirk. They were a big meme, which is kind of Gen Z talk for a big joke, which is another fascinating piece of information. Which is why I'm sitting here and I started this video by saying, I really just believe this guy's insane. I really just believe this is not a very politically oriented attack. I'm sure politics played a role, but I think his insanity was the main driving factor here. And I think the evidence that the prosecutors have for saying that he's left wing is pretty weak. And again, I just want to stress, because I got to cover my bases, I'm not saying it's not possible that he's left wing. But according to some new reporting from from Ken Klippenstein about Tyler Robinson, he spoke to one of his former classmates, a longtime friend, who shared this new image of Tyler Robinson camping to verify their relationship. According to this new reporting, his friends say that his family didn't really understand him or really know him or have much understanding about what he actually believed, which kind of puts into question the whole his parents said he's left wing kind of thing. But let's just look at some of these exclusive messages that Ken Klippenstein was able to obtain as part of this reporting. He said, I obtained this in other Discord chats I've decided to publish, along with new information I've learned about Robinson from the people who knew him best. This is him confessing. His name is, as you can see, his username right there, saying, hey guys, I have bad news for you all. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all of this. I'm surrendering through a share friend in a few moments. Thanks for all the good times and laughs. You've been amazing. Thanks for everything. Trump and his company portray the alleged Utah shooter as left-wing and liberals portray him as right-wing. The federal conclusion will inevitably be that he was a so-called nihilist violent extremist, an NVE. Meanwhile, the crackdown has already begun. As I reported yesterday, the country is practically ready to go to war. A quote, according to the childhood friend, it's been so terrible, and seeing it from an inside perspective is so frustrating. A friend of Robinson since middle school told me. The childhood friend, who asked not to be named publicly for fear of threats, provided me with the above non-public photo, as we saw, of him camping, to verify their friendship. I think the main thing that's caused so much confusion is that he was always generally apolitical for the most part. That's the big thing. He just never really talked about politics, which is why it's so frustrating. And here's another important quote. Their ideas the family, referencing the family saying that he's left wing, their ideas are based on someone they didn't fully understand. The childhood friend told me, though the family was generally supportive of Robinson, they didn't seem to know about his relationship with a transgender person named Lance, the friend said. When I asked if his family would have been accepting, the friend replied, I don't even think even Tyler knew the answer to that question, which is why I kept it so low between themselves. And here's some other messages where he was just kind of talking about video games, and the only mentions of Donald Trump or Joe Biden was referencing the impeachment of Trump in 2019 or the 2020 election where Biden was elected president. And you can see some of these messages if you'd like. But for the most part, there was no political extremism in this Discord. There was no, I hate Trump, I hate Biden, I hate X, Y, and Z. It was just kind of like a guy who talked about video games with his friends, and it appeared to snap and commit a really awful instance of violence. So, look, I don't know. I'm just trying to give you all of the information we have. Again, I'm not trying to speculate. This is just my view. Please take everything that I'm saying with a grain of salt. Do your own research. I implore you to do that. I'm just giving you what we know. But I'll leave the video there. You can let me know in the comments what you think. I'm fascinated to hear it. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe down below. It goes an incredibly long way. Drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think about this story. And as I always say, I greatly appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.